Today we're going to talk about those things that I do not do in my homeschool, but before we get started, welcome to my channel. My name is Leigh, and I share here all the things about homeschooling, some tips and tricks, some behind the scenes, how to get started, what exactly it looks like, and to be honest, just the real life truth behind homeschooling. I'm glad to have you here. If you have not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and let's get started. The first thing I do not do in my homeschool is I do not give out grades. There's no A, B, C, D, or Fs. There's no number percentage grades at all, ever. I know that sounds completely contrary to basically how most of us have even gone to school. That seems to be the measure for success. But in my homeschool, that is not the measurement for success. What I want is my children to learn. I want them to be introduced to new topics and concepts, no matter whether it's in language arts or science or history or math. And I just want to know that they have comprehended those, that we are building upon a foundation and just adding to each of those things. If they do not understand a new math concept, we simply go back. We keep doing those types of problems until they understand it. Maybe I need to add some type of supplemental work in, and that's absolutely fine to do. But I do not give them grades at all, ever. So now you wonder, okay, what about even high school? Do you do grades then? Because you can say like, oh, I can kind of get how you wouldn't do that for elementary and middle school. But when it comes to high school, don't you need to give grades? I will admit that I do give grades. I do put grades on their transcripts. However, I don't necessarily share those grades with my kids. I know how they're doing. I know exactly. I can tell them at any moment. I can tell anybody at any moment how they are doing in every single subject. To be honest, most people don't really care. They just want to know, do you have an A in this class? Do you have a B? You know, what's your GPA? And now when my daughter has taken some dual enrollment college courses, they gave grades and she knew what those were. And that's just a different type of subject, different type of learning. But when it comes to the work that I have them doing for all subjects, I do not give any types of grades. I know if they are passing or failing, and if they're failing something, well, I shouldn't even let them get to that point. If they aren't understanding a concept, especially in math, we're going to go back and we're going to keep working on that until they do understand the concept. Change things up if I need to, but I do not give any grades to my kids of any age in any of the levels for our homeschool. The second thing I do not do is I do not keep up with any type of standards, whether those are set by the public school regulations or set in a book, or even books that say, you know, what your child should know in second grade, what your child should know in fourth grade. I don't pay attention to any of those types of things. Now, a lot of the books and stuff and textbooks that we do use for our formal education do have grade levels on them, and I just assume that those are appropriate for those grade levels. Sometimes they are above what possibly they might be doing their contemporaries or counterparts that are in public school. It might be higher than what they are doing. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't pay attention to what the standards are. I have stepped far enough out of the public school system that I understand what my rights, my responsibilities, what I can do in my homeschool, and that one thing is that I don't have to keep up with anybody else's standards. I can keep adding to it. So that kind of goes back to the grading. If I know that my child doesn't understand something, there's no reason for me to give them a C or an F or a percentage grade. They don't understand something, let's go back and let's work on it until they do understand that. So I don't pay attention to any of the standards. I will admit that I did at the very first point when I first started homeschooling. I questioned it greatly, and I would kind of ask around and find out from, because this was before the internet, before all of this stuff. I would ask some of my daughter's friends, she was in third grade then, so or mid-elementary school, I would ask from their parents, oh, what are they working on in English class? And there was one time that I heard that they were working on something, and I realized that I hadn't introduced that concept to her, and I didn't know if it was in the book. I quick kind of looked through the book we were using, and I didn't see it, and so I quick, did a scavenge around for some workbooks and stuff just so I could add that in, just so that I could feel like I met that standard, that I was doing the right thing as far as her education. Looking back now, I'm like, that was absolutely foolish. It was a waste of time. We eventually got to that concept, and whether she uses that concept in life or not, it doesn't really necessarily matter that I had to, I just felt the pressure that I had to add at that time. So the second thing I do not do is I do not pay attention to any of the public school regulations or any of those books that tell me what my child needs to know in a certain grade. The third thing I do not do in my homeschool is my children in elementary school do no online learning. We might watch some types of videos, some documentaries, some type of supplemental things, but they do not take any classes, any courses, nothing online. I don't want them to do anything online. I want them to either use books, living books. I want them to use the world, nature, all kinds of other resources instead of online. So that being said, I don't subscribe. We don't do any type of online program. I hear often people like, what do you do? What program do you use in elementary school? I can get into it in another video, but I do an eclectic bit of things. But the number 3 thing that I don't do is I don't do any type of learning online, any type of formal learning online for them in the elementary school years. Middle school, I really greatly steer away from it as well. We have added in a math lesson that they do online that now I have one middle schooler left that he does online, and then he's learning how to type, and that's it. So let's just say in elementary school, I do 0 formal type education on, with online, with any type of computers, screens, anything besides just adding in some fun videos and that kind of stuff. Middle school, I'll do very sparingly. And even when it comes to high school, the beginning of high school, I don't do much. The most my daughter, who has now graduated homeschool, that she did was in her 11th and 12th grade years of homeschooling, and that was because she took online college courses, and those were all online. But she would do what she had to online and then turn the computer off and do the rest that she could do outside of that. So the number 3 thing I do not do is I don't add any type of online or screen time learning in the younger years. Very minimal for the middle school years, minimal for the beginning of high school, and then just really as necessary after that. The 4th thing that I do not do in my homeschool is that I do not plan my entire year out. I feel a little guilty every single year when I, get online and I see come August, September, and I see all the other homeschool moms and they've got their planners and they have everything all planned out for the entire year. I don't plan for the entire year. I purchase the formal curriculum that I want us to do. That kind of helps keep us going along, and I can talk in a further video about how I do our actual planning, but I don't look down and say, this is where I want to be in 2 months or after this quarter or halfway through the year. I don't have the mental capacity, the emotional capacity to do that, because I'm going to tell you right now that I have tried to do it in the past, and all it led to was frustration when I would realize that we hadn't gotten to the certain places that I wanted to. And it just made me feel defeated, made me feel just down about our homeschool, like we weren't accomplishing what we needed to, because you know what? Real life happens. Things come up. So I don't plan out. I don't sit down and plan an entire year. The most planning I do is figuring out which formal curriculum we're going to get, purchasing that, and having that. That basically, to me, is planning out for the year. My goal is to get through each of those different books, whether it's math, science, language, arts. However, I do know that, by law, by the regulations, I'm not required to get 100%. I tend to be a 100% person, so to me, I don't need to plan out the entire year. I have those different books. If I was winging it a bit more, then maybe I would need to plan it out and plan out certain things. So say, sometimes I've done unit studies and I have kind of set those up and done more of a block schedule for that kind of stuff. But I don't sit down and plan out everything we're doing from September through June. The 5th thing I do not do as a homeschool mom is I do not get up super early. I feel a little bit bad about that. I know I could be really productive. I tend to kind of find myself in the past few years staying up a little bit later and getting things done. And so, I get up enough time in the morning and I make breakfast for everybody, but I'm not a 5 a.m. get up, work out, have my devotions and, drink coffee and get everything set up. I am more of a, maybe it still is early. For some people, it might still be considered early, but I do get up, 6:30, 7 o'clock. But to me, it is more important for me to get my sleep and to feel well rested for the day, as opposed to getting up and being able to check off some things. And those things that are important, I fit into at other parts of my day. The 6th thing that I do not do in my homeschool is that I do not compare myself to other homeschoolers. Now, this can go back to the other thing that I don't do, where I don't compare and don't follow along with the public school regulations or try to keep up with anybody. I also do not try and keep up with any other homeschoolers. I use other homeschool moms and families as resources, as inspiration, as great information, but I don't actively work at trying to keep up and doing what they're doing. Somebody local might share a field trip they take, and I don't let that, beat me up that I didn't go and do that. I say, okay, well, I should add that in. That sounds like something that interests you. But I do not try to keep up with anybody else. Every single homeschool is unique. Every family is unique. And so for me, I use other people as inspiration, as information, and to kind of maybe encourage me to add some different things in, but I don't I don't beat myself up. I don't let it get down that I'm not doing everything that somebody else is doing, because I realize that there are things that I am doing that they are not doing. And you know what? It all ends up equaling out in the end. So there it is, the 6 things I do not do in my homeschool. I do not grade their work. I do not try to keep up with public school standards. I don't do any type of online learning for the younger grades, very minimal for the middle grades as well. I do not plan out an entire year before we get started. I do not get up super early, and I do not compare my homeschool and our family's life to other homeschoolers. So I hope that helped you out. Let me know in the comment section below things that you see that others do that you do not feel is necessary for the success of your children in your homeschool. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad to have you. Please feel free to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.